today's video, we're going to be having a conversation about the top 5 Pokemon opportunities I think are available right now or about to become available. Now, before we jump into it, as always, we do weekly giveaways. All you have to do to enter is leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We post pre-recorded content each and every week for you to do so. We're also doing a Twitter giveaway as well, so if you want to be a part of that, links down in the description below where you have a chance at winning a Lost Origin Elite Trainer box. Then outside of that, same 2 links. If you have a spot available ever, definitely recommend you join for our Patreon wholesale access tier. And then outside of that, it's links down in the description below to be a part of the Discord, stay up to date on all things PokemartUSA, and be a part of the community. But today, ladies and gentlemen, now jumping into the topic. So obviously with yesterday's video, we were having a conversation about general Pokemon product, which is going to more than likely flood the market. There's going to be a large amount of it. And some of those items, we had a conversation about potential future reprints happening or confirmed reprints happening. So I want to start off by saying this. Funny enough, I made that video with Scarlet and Violet as a potential item that was going to get reprinted based on some of the rumors we were hearing, and I couldn't get full confirmation yet, and it felt kind of weird. I said to myself, why would they reprint Scarlet and Violet? Literally the next day, right before I went live, I got off the phone with my rep, and he's like, hey, just letting you know, we just got dumped with an absolute crap ton of Scarlet and Violet booster boxes. So are you ready to buy some? So to answer the question, yeah, it is 100% confirmed. Scarlet and Violet booster boxes are going to be aplenty as it stands right now. Why they're going to do this? I mean, the only belief that I possibly have is this is kind of a situation where potentially, obviously, this is not financial advice, I'm not a financial advisor, it could be printing this and then saying we're moving on because base sets historically have not really performed really well unless they were short printed or there wasn't a ton available. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Pokemon company said, all right, ladies and gentlemen, this is it, pick it up. And then that's kind of going to be the end of it, like what they did with the base set for Sword and Shield era and Rebel Clash. But, you know, this is obviously speculative. So now that we've gotten that portion out of the way, I'm going to jump into the 5 specific opportunities. Some of them will be specific items, some of them will be a broad amount of items in which I think you need to be taking advantage of, or you're going to want to take advantage of over the next couple of weeks as these prices begin to fall. First and foremost, oh, who would have guessed it? It's the Scarlet and Violet booster box. Now, people are going to think I am crazy on this one because there has been so much negativity, so much disdain for this specific item. People have said that this item is an absolute brick. No one's ever going to want to invest in it. No one's ever going to want to open it, etc., etc. Well, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to argue that when it comes to the overall comparison of the Sword and Shield base set compared to the Scarlet and Violet base set, it is arguably a drastically better set in terms of Scarlet and Violet, just because the art designs are so much better. There's such a diversity when it comes to the pull rates. We've got SIRs introduced, where before it was just rainbows, kind of a lackluster set, and we saw the performance of what Scarlet and Violet is doing right now, and we look at how Sword and Shield base set has done, and we say to ourselves, why can't that perform the same? Now, obviously, everyone's going to say, well, obviously, it's because Sword and Shield era, it didn't get multiple print waves, and we don't know that yet with Scarlet and Violet, which, you know, is 100% true. It is extremely speculative as what is going to happen with Scarlet and Violet, and if it's going to get the same sort of print treatment as the previous base set in the generation of Sword and Shield has. However, I'm going to say this as it shouldn't matter, because at the end of the day, here's the reality of the situation, guys. Obviously, we all like our free tendies, we like our quick flips. If this is something that does end up going quite a bit up in price in 6 months to a year, we're all happy, we're all excited, right? But I look at this as an item for more of a long-term perspective in 3 to 5 years. And if I'm saying to myself that this item is going for at wholesale $95.50 on most distributors, usually at $96, $97, upwards of $100 on some distributors, and with prices already dropping, I mean, there's some websites that I've seen people link in the Discord deals channel, as well as in Facebook Marketplace groups, where they're selling this for at wholesale or in the low 90s. So if you want an opportunity to pick up what I believe is the new like kind of floor, because if you guys remember, right, in terms of previous floors for like Chilling Reign, Battle Styles, those sets went down to as low as 75. So if we see an item like this where you shift the goalpost up by $10, it's almost as if you're picking up these items in the low 80-ish range in comparison with the new, inflation point, which is fantastic. And who knows, it's entirely possible that we could watch the price of this item go down to as low as the high 80s to mid 80s, which would be incredible, right? That's still kind of speculative as it stands right now, but still the fact that there's opportunities to pick this item up in the low 90s has me extremely optimistic, because you say to yourself, all right, well, everyone's saying this item's a brick, but let's be honest here. Everyone said the exact same thing about Chilling Reign, and now where is it? It's at 140 a booster box. And I'm not comparing it as they're two equal sets, but what I am comparing it is the fact of the matter that this is the first time in a generation where we've had a switch to silver borders. We've had a drastic switch in terms of the MSRP price increasing, and so there's a huge shakeup in the market, and that's going to obviously play out right now in the most negative way possible. And over time, I think you're going to look back on this item and say, wow, I'm surprised this item went up as high as it is, or it's as high as it is right now, because there was so much negative sentiment. But at the end of the day, if the Pokemon Company is aware of that negative sentiment, there's always a possibility they could say, hey, this set, Paldea Evolved, sets that are just not that of a demand. It's a set that was printed for the purpose of shaking up the competitive landscape for the trading card game. We're just going to move on. There's not going to be a ton of supply. This might be it. Who knows? Obviously, this is speculative. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the risk-reward ratio of picking up an item like this at or below wholesale, what are you going to lose, right? Okay, let's say I expend some capital and I'm wrong, right? They end up reprinting it one more time after the price of the booster box went up by $10, and it drops once again back to your entry point. Did you lose money? No, you didn't lose money. You just are at a break-even point back at it, and you can double back down. Like, it's only a risk if you're saying this item you're picking up at 130, 140, and then all of a sudden it does end up getting a reprint later down the line. But if you're buying in at like the bare minimum, the below of what you can personally pick it up right now if you have access to distro, like, that's just such a good opportunity when it comes to risk to reward ratio, and I just absolutely love it, right? I mean, it's just the reality of the situation, ladies and gentlemen. Even for sets as terrible as Steam Siege and Crimson Invasion, I mean, what, Steam Siege booster box is going for like $350, $400 right now. There's still money that's going to be made even in these terrible sets, and when you get opportunities to pick them up at absolutely dirt cheap prices, the margins are still going to be good at the end of the day. You're just going to have to potentially wait a little bit longer for these specific sets. Moving on, another set as well, very similar in this situation, Paldea Evolve. Now, Paldea Evolve is one of those sets where we were obviously told that this is a short printed set. Now, is this 100% certain that there isn't going to be more supply of this available, kind of like with what's recently happened with Scarlet and Violet base set? No, it's not 100% confirmed. However, once again, on certain specific websites, I've been seeing prices in the mid 90s, low 90s. And I think Facebook Marketplace groups have been plentiful with people selling them at $92, $93, $94. So if you don't already know, highly recommend you guys check out Facebook Marketplace groups for Pokemon trades and buying when it comes to sealed product, because there is a plentiful amount of opportunities to pick up these items specifically in the low 90s to mid 90s. I saw a couple of links where some people were selling them for like $96, $97 on just traditional websites like Smoke and Mirrors. So there's always an opportunity if you don't want to go scrounge through and look at, Facebook Marketplace groups to hope to fight for that extra $3, $4 off. But either way, I'm not going to fault you for getting an item that is sub $100 and close to and or slightly below wholesale pricing. It's another set, which this one's a little bit different. I've obviously talked about this set in such a limelight where I felt like the market has negatively overreacted to it because of the pull rates, because people are going to look at this set and they're going to compare it to, Rebel Clash, which I think is extremely unjustifiable. But let's be honest here, the Pokemon Company tends to repeat itself when it comes to the history of how it does prints. And so for that reason, it just makes total sense to me why this set has been such a negative reaction within the market. And for that exact reason, I'm going to take advantage of it, because this set has amazing art designs. It has amazing opportunities for certain cards. Iono's an amazing card. I love the Magikarp. I love the T-Tar. And we know these are not just regular character rares that are super easy to pull. Obviously, this is anecdotal, so you guys can take everything I say with a grain of salt, but I did a 1090 pack opening most recently with Paldea Evolved, and I pulled 0 Magikarps, right? And I did a previous opening where I opened half 1,000, I pulled 2 Magikarps. But if you just take the kind of compilation of packs that I've pulled along with what TCG's compiled, it seems as if it's pretty much, you know, one in like 400, 480, 500 to pull a Magikarp. So a lot of these cards, although people might say, well, they're just a regular character rare, they shouldn't be that expensive, they are difficult to pull. And so they're going to be high favorable cards that people are going to really enjoy because the art designs in the set are gorgeous. And as someone who has bought every single video game except so far, you know, Sun and Moon and Scarlet and Violet, I will tell you what, looking at some of the art designs for this specific set has started to get me interested in buying the game just to kind of check it out, because I fell in love with a lot of the new Pokemon characters that they showcased in this. And for me personally, this might be a little bit of something that a lot of people didn't really pay attention to, but have we noticed that all these cards so far, they haven't shown any sort of crowns on their heads? It's only the special Terra typing Pokemon, which they usually throw 2 or 3 of in a set for these specific SIR cards. They haven't thrown crowns in. So I think for me, that allows you to showcase the cards a lot more beautifully without having them get the mumbo jumbo on top of their heads. Next item. Okay, this one, beating the drum, continuing to beat the drum. It's still going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, especially as time goes on. I just love this item more and more over time. Sword and Shield Ultra Premium Collection. I've said it before, I'll say it again. History with this item is just going to repeat itself. This is one of those items that I'm starting to feel like, which is going to look like the Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box. You guys remember the Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box? When you guys, the Hidden Fates, the Hidden Fates Elite Trainer box back in the day when it was selling for $200-300 a pop. You guys remember that? Well, for those of you that are new to the hobby, that used to be a thing before we had a reprint of it. And since then, the reprinted product has been sitting around $150, $160. Some places you can pick it up for as low as $130, $140. And it's just been sideways ever since. That's all it's been doing, right? But we know the potential of what it could potentially reach to because of the previous high before the supply got to as big as it was. And guess what happens over time, right? As more supply floods the market, prices tend to go down, and as the supply starts to dry up, prices start to skyrocket up. This is very evident as we've seen the exact same thing happen with a set such as XY Evolutions, where we saw prices of the booster box go for $100 all the way up to $200-300, gets printed into the ground, starts going to sub 100 in the 80s, 90s was what you could pick it up for several years, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we see it skyrocket up to $1,000. You might say, but Eli, that only happened because of COVID. Okay, well, COVID's been gone for about a year now, and you know, we've seen sets in the Sun and Moon era that have also started to pop up in price. And you might say, okay, well, you're cherry picking with Team Up, but have you been paying attention to what's going on with the rest of the XY era and the rest of the Sun and Moon era? Everything's just going up. It's not, you know, indicative of just specific, you know, sets with specific art designs. Sure, they're performing better than the rest of the market, but a lot of these sets, which had a lot more supply than people realize, are still performing extremely well outside of just the Team Up set. So I'm a huge believer in the fact that this item, as it was one that went up to $300 at its high point and got printed into the ground, it's going to be one of those same exact items which once it hits that kind of point of just it's been enough, has been opened, and you can all of a sudden finally take advantage of the absolute magnificent gains that I expected to happen in the long term, because guess what this item is? It's an ultra premium collection item, and it's a Charizard. What do we know historically has performed really well? Ultra premium collections and Charizards. This is like a stupid opportunity that the fact of the matter, this is still selling on TCG Player for $100, and a lot of other sites I've seen it go for as low as $85 to $90. I mean, come on, guys. Like, this is something that if you're not picking up a ton of this, then I don't know what you're doing, my guys. Especially when you break down the fact of the matter that the packs and a lot of the selection of this, along with the sleeves and the promos, if you're buying these in the $85, $90-ish range, you can still profit off of this. It's not as good of free tennies as it was before when the promos were selling for $20 a piece, but there's still opportunity to be able to break this down and flip this if you do ever get cold feet and want to get out of this item if you're tired of holding on to it. But don't recommend that because I love this as a long-term investment. Moving on to the next item. So this one, who would have guessed it? Lost Origin booster boxes, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, now you might say, Eli, but this is selling for right now $140, $145. Why would you want to pick this up now? I don't. Like I said at the start of the video, these are opportunities that are either available now or they are going to present themselves. We know that we are about 2 to 3 weeks away from the Lost Origin reprints coming. I haven't got an exact official date of when they're going to be coming. All I know is that it said mid-July is what the expectation is. This has obviously been confirmed by Distro multiple different times, as well as other PokeTubers. So, I mean, it's pretty rock solid at this point. And when it comes to the price of what I personally am anticipating this to go down to, here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. It might sound crazy for you guys to think this, but I think it's entirely possible considering the fact this is at 145 right now. I think this could go down once we get the official supply into the low 100s, right? Whether it be 105, whether it be 110, and hypothetically speaking, it could even go to sub 100, right? Regardless, at the end of the day, whatever the price point is that it falls to, I've said this before when it comes to my general strategies, I will say it again. I always like to wait 2 to 3 weeks for the price to kind of even itself out, because a lot of the times people will sit there and they'll see the price go down on an item like this to $105 and they'll just jump in immediately because they say it can't go lower. And then if they would have waited a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, they could have potentially gotten in at the price of $5 to $10 cheaper. It happens all the time in this market because when things get reprinted, it is a free fall, ladies and gentlemen. So for me personally, I'm going to take advantage by picking up this item if it does indeed get into the low 100s. And heck, man, this might sound like a hot take here, or maybe it's not a hot take. If this item even drops to as high as 120, I'm still going to like it, because I think just based on the performance this item has had and Lost Origin as a set has performed, it just kind of shows that there's going to be some exponential growth for this item, and it's extremely unlikely as we are pushing forward with the Scarlet and Violet era and the transition over to Silver Borders that it's going to get another print. So I could see this being an extremely similar situation where what's been coming to fruition with Evolving Skies right now, where we had a small print of Evolving Skies and the price dropped from $200 all the way down to $120, $130, and that was it. And if you got in, you got in. And at the time, you might say, oh, $120, $130, not a good price. But I mean, hindsight's 2020. And I think we could have the exact same thing happen with Lost Origin, where within a year or two, this item could go up to $200+. It would not surprise me, especially by that point when you consider the fact that we'll be near the back end of the Scarlet and Violet era in the next 1.5 to 2 years. So huge fan. But like I said, price points, I'm really going to wait on those before I give definitive ones. But I think we're going to see some opportunities that are going to present themselves no matter what, as the price with this item is going to correct. If it doesn't correct for whatever weird reason, which is extremely doubtful, then obviously I'm going to change my response, because I'm not going to pick it up at 140, 145. I mean, it's not a terrible pickup by any means, but I just think if you can pick it up from 120, sub that, obviously the more the better for in terms of long-term opportunities. All right, last one. So obviously so far I've been showing you guys nothing but items, but this one is going to be a group of items because I just loved so many of them. I couldn't not pick one. Crown Zenith, ladies and gentlemen. I've said this before and I will say it again. When it comes to specialty sets, historically speaking, they have been, from a marginal perspective, some of the best performing items to pick up long term. And at the end of the day, obviously some of them are going to perform better than others, but for me, to be quite frank with you, I like most of these items. Obviously, you guys know what my stance was on the specialty Crown Zenith Elite Trainer Box from the Pokemon Center. Not a fan of that anymore because it already hit my price targets when I told people to pick it up. And for those of you guys that did pick it up, well, congratulations, you 2 extra money. So I'm going to recuse that one from the overall conversation. But outside of that, the items that I like is literally just about anything else on the list. I'm talking the tins, I'm talking the premium playmat collection, the Pikachu playmat. And the reason why I like all these items, ladies and gentlemen, is most of them are either at MSRP or lower. And it's awesome to be able to have a set which is arguably one of the best sets in the Sword and Shield era. I know it might sound like a hot take to say, but potentially even better than Evolving Skies. You know, it's obviously on a personal opinion basis, but it's an incredible set. There's no denying this is a top 3 set in the Sword and Shield era. And the fact of the matter that we've just been sitting here with the opportunity to pick this up for dirt cheap. In retrospect, I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen, like, look at history in terms of specialty sets. I think the only instance in which a set hasn't, progressively done well in the past, I want to say 5 years of specialty sets. So we're talking to as far back as Dragon Majesty / Hidden Fates. It's really been Shining Fates, and the only reason why that's even happened to begin with is because there's been so much of Shining Fates in terms of the overall print run that it has had for specifically Elite Trainer Boxes. I mean, we saw literally a reprint of this item right before it went out of rotation, and because of that, it's $5 below MSRP. Still like the set, but there's a reason why it just hasn't seen that huge of an increase. But in terms of outside of that item and the items that didn't get reprints, well, if you go look at some of the little playmat collection, or not playmat, ping collections, these items are well above MSRP. The tins are slightly above MSRP, and for a set like this, which is, for a specialty set, it's an okay specialty set. But if you look at the items that haven't gotten that have gotten reprints, right, which is Shining Fates, the Pikachu V, and the Elite Trainer Boxes, and you take those out of the mix, the majority of these items are, above MSRP ever so slightly, or certain ones drastically higher, which we're referencing the pin collection. So if we go take a set that like this is very, mediocre, arguably speaking, and then we take a set like this, Crown Zenith, which has an extremely, tons of hype around the set, but there's been so much of the product that's been printed. I look at this and I say, this is such a better opportunity than what we've seen in the most recent past of high demand specialty sets, right? Obviously, the one I liked the most previously was 25th anniversary celebration set, and it's still good if you want to pick some up for the price that it's at. But when you look at this set and how good of a set it is for the price that it's at, it just feels like you're sleeping if you're not taking advantage of it. And for me personally, although I am a fan of Elite Trainer Boxes because Elite Trainer Boxes tend to do really well long term, I am also a fan of some of the tins. I'm also a fan of the Zacian Zamazenta collection. I'm also a fan of the Marnie Morpeko playmat collection. I mean, I'm a fan of a lot of these items because being able to pick up a set like this at a really nice price where it's at MSRP or below or at wholesale for some of these items, it just feels like an opportunity that's just too good to pass up on. And so I just wanted to say, Crown Zenith, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is going to be one of those sets that's going to do extremely well long term. And to kind of wrap it up with this, if you're saying to yourself, well, Eli, I think it could go lower, especially considering if it is sitting on the shelves like it is right now, and by the time it comes around to Black Friday, it's still sitting on the shelves and you can get it for cheaper, then it's going to be an even better pickup. So a lot of these items I like right now in terms of picking up, or I'm going to like in the next week or two. And then some of these items you're going to want to wait a couple of weeks to be able to take advantage. But at the end of the day, it's still important to be aware because there's going to be so much opportunity that's going to be flooding the market, and you're starting to see it happen right now. And the thing is, a lot of people are going to look at this and they're going to say so many negative things about, I think this is a brick. I think this is a brick. But once again, ladies and gentlemen, we want to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful, because that's usually when there's the best times to make opportunity for long-term investments in the market. But as far as it goes, that is all for today's video. As always, if you want to enter into our weekly giveaways, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Outside of that, of course, as well, Twitter, we're doing regular giveaways. And if you want to take advantage of that, make sure you hit us with a follow, retweet our recent post with the Lost Origin Elite Trainer Box. Outside of that, you guys know how it always is in terms of if you want to take advantage of access to wholesale prices for Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! If it's ever available, check out the link to the Patreon. Outside of that, Discord is the place to be if you want to stay up to date on all things PokemartUSA. But that is all for today's video. Thank you all so much once again for watching. Until then, I will see you all on Thursday's live. Peace.